Hey there, and welcome to Clearing the Clouds, the podcast where we untangle the knots of everyday interactions, dive into the messy, beautiful chaos of human connection, and maybe, just maybe, make sense of why your last conversation felt like you were lost in a fog. I'm Lance Labno, your guide through the clouds, and today we're talking about the fascinating dance of moving toward or away from each other during a conversation. Yes, that's right. Every conversation is basically a waltz, a tango, or maybe just two people trying not to step on each other's toes. We're unpacking the many layers of this dance, figuring out how each of us moves along the spectrum of actively listening and engaging, and why, despite all the missteps, no one is ever actually wrong. We're just seeing things from different levels of experience. So let's clear the clouds together and dive right in. Unpacking the movement. Let's kick things off with this concept. Every conversation is a real-time movement. No, I'm not talking about physically inching away from someone who's talking a bit too close, though we've all been there. I'm talking about the emotional and mental movement we experience when we talk with someone. It's like we're all on these invisible conveyor belts, sometimes moving toward each other, nodding in agreement, and other times, well, going backward like you've accidentally hit the reverse button on the treadmill. Now, picture this. You're deep in conversation. Maybe it's a serious debate about weekend plans or something more meaningful. You're locked in, eyes on the other person, and suddenly you feel it. This shift. It's like the temperature in the room changes. Sometimes it's warm and inviting. Sometimes it's a little chilly. You know what I mean, right? In every single moment, both of you are on the move. Not literally, unless you're a pacer who can't sit still, but emotionally and mentally you are. It's an invisible emotional shuffle where sometimes you're stepping forward, closing the gap, and other times you're inching back, creating distance. And half the time we don't even realize it's happening. This brings us to understanding and using the spectrum of active listening and engagement. Next up, let's talk about the spectrum of active listening and engagement. Imagine a line that stretches from "I'm fully present," hanging on to your every word, to "I'm physically here but mentally planning my to-do list for tomorrow." We're all somewhere on this line, and we shift along it constantly. And no, I'm not saying you're literally moving, but it can feel like that. Emotionally, you're either leaning in or drifting off. When we're actively listening, we're right there, hanging on every word like it's the last season finale of our favorite show. And then there are those other times, those moments where you're nodding but not really there. You know, when someone's talking and you're still stuck on that weird thing they said 3 sentences ago. But here's the interesting part. Even when two people are in a conversation, they often aren't at the same point on this spectrum. One might be fully engaged, practically reading the other person's mind, while the other is mentally rehearsing what they're going to say next, or worrying if they left the iron on. It's like trying to dance to different music at the same time. Both of you are dancing, but it's not quite the same tune. My next segment is to discuss our different plateaus of experience. No one is wrong. Now here's something to chew on. In this conversational dance, no one is ever truly wrong. Think about it. We're all standing on our own plateaus of experience. Your plateau, it's built from your life. Your memories, your little quirks, your secret inner language, and all those times you tried to fold a fitted sheet and gave up. You're up on this hill, and from there, you see the world a certain way. But the person you're talking to, they've got their own hill, and they're seeing things from their perspective. Their view of the same conversation is shaped by their past experiences and what's going on in their mind at that moment. It's like being on two different observation decks, looking at the same city, but seeing completely different landmarks. So the next time you're in a conversation that feels off, just remember, you're not wrong, and neither are they. You're just standing on different plateaus, looking at the same clouds from different angles. So how can we bring it all together? How do we manage this beautiful, occasionally awkward dance? First, start with self-awareness. Check in with yourself. Are you leaning in? Fully listening? or are you mentally somewhere else? Just noticing where you are can make a huge difference in how you connect. Second, keep empathy in your back pocket. Remember, the other person isn't moving away from you because they want to shut you out. They're on their own journey, making their own moves, and sometimes their steps just look different from yours. And here's a little tip. When things get cloudy, pause. Take a breath, and if you're feeling brave, try summarizing what you've heard. So, what I'm getting at, it's like hitting refresh on your browser. You're clearing up misunderstandings before they snowball. And finally, stay curious. Try to see the view from their plateau, even if it's just for a moment. It's like swapping maps. Yours might say mountain, and theirs might say hill. But at the end of the day, you're both looking at the same landscape. All right, friends, that's it for today's episode of Clearing the Clouds. Remember, every conversation is a dance, a little messy, a little clumsy, but always moving. And in that movement, no one's truly right or wrong. We're all just trying to figure out the steps as we go. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe and download future episodes on your favorite podcast app like Spotify or iTunes, and join us. Or share it with someone who might need a little help clearing the clouds in their own conversations. Thanks for tuning in to Clearing the Clouds, where we look to find peace in the storm of life. Because even when it rains, we can find a little sunshine, or at least an umbrella.